Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Welcome to the Yee Yee Show. You know what I mean? Where we bring you that live and direct, those one on one, real good interviews, and we bring, what you need. And, we try to keep it real, real, real official here for you guys out there. And today we have a special guest in the building. We have none other than, Blake Short from Top Dog Digital Solutions. What's up, my guy?
What's going on, man? Happy to be here.
Yes, yes. Thank you for stopping by. And you know what I mean? We want to get all these goodies about this Facebook advertising and campaigns.
No doubt, man. No doubt. We're going to talk everything from A to Z when it comes to Facebook, man. So whatever I can give, I'm going to give it. You just ask the questions, I got the answers.
Oh boy, oh boy. So Blake, let's just start off, you know what I mean? What do you do? What do you do? What do you specialize in? And how do you help, from junk removal to I'm guessing all types of different businesses.
Yeah, junk removals are main, but we work in other industries as well. And what we try and build is an ecosystem that's going to help somebody grow, right? That in its most simpler form, that's exactly what we're doing, right? So whether it be, the two forms we focus on the most are Facebook ads, and we're known for that in the junk removal community, and then SEO, okay? And we want to specialize in setting up things that are positioning a business to get opportunities and to grow, right? That's marketing in a nutshell. So the way that we do that is for Facebook ads, which will be specific on today, we set up the campaigns, we organize and set up video, which is basically we script it out, we edit it for our clients, and then we help qualify on the back end. That way, if they're on a job or they're in the truck, they're not having opportunities sit and being lost, which is an important part of the process. And I'm sure we'll go into that. Along with that, we do B2B emails. So one of the things we found out pretty quick was that, commercial business is good business, for most. So we want to give them opportunities and get in front of those people. Usually send about 600 to 700 emails out to realtors, property managers, storage unit companies, the whole nine, right? And we also do SMS campaigns. So if somebody has a customer list, we can work that list for them to help them drive repeat business and opportunities that are essentially just sitting in their list.
Nice. That sounds, you know what I mean? Absolutely what a lot of people want to hear and want. And I think the main thing about, running a ad in a situation is that a lot of people are scared about, ad cost compared to, maybe some people are traumatized because of the Google cost. And, break that down to us.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Facebook and Google, right? And I think Facebook is really starting to take shape, especially in the junk removal community. I felt like when I came in 6 years ago, Facebook almost had a bad rap, right? It was like everybody talked about Google and they just didn't know much about Facebook. And Google at the time, the costs were a little bit better 6 years ago, They're like, oh, I can get the phone calls, I don't have to pay as much. The problem is, it's not the case anymore. We all know that. You might be lucky in your market, but most markets, the cost has risen and it's getting higher and higher, which means now your margin of success is narrowed. Okay. So to give you an idea on costs and numbers, if you're running a Google ad and it's $50, $60, or $70 a call, right? Then that means that if you're closing less than 50% or even at 50%, then your cost per acquisition is $100 or more, right? Simple math. Okay. That makes things very hard, especially if you're only closing smaller jobs. If you're paying $100 just to Google, and then you have to pay for labor, dump fees, and everything to run a business, you're probably losing money on a single item pickup and maybe not making much on even like a quarter load, depending on what you're charging. All right. So,
Now, I'm sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Now, would a cost per ad or lead, would that depend on your small pickups or your bigger pickups?
For sure. Well, for on your end, as far as the margins. So if you're charging 175 for a minimum, then you might have a little bit of leeway than somebody who's charging 99, right? And every area is going to have different minimums and different pricing. So, and also you might have some areas who are paying 30 or $40 a call on Google, and maybe they were closing 60 or 70%. So this is all math and numbers that you want to bring to the table and understand. One of the biggest issues is most people don't understand the numbers. It's a huge issue. Okay. So if you have a marketing company or if you're doing it yourself, you really want to break down and understand your numbers, okay? Because you're going to start to see the leverage points and what's working best for you. So when I flip that, let's say Google, you're at my example, you're at $50 a call and you're closing 50% of the jobs for simple math, right? So it's $100 a job, okay? Now, if you're closing a lot of cleanouts, then you're probably making money. You might have a 3x, 4x return, or 5x return on Google. But if you're not, and you're closing a lot of smaller jobs, or if your closing rate's like 30%, 40%, you're probably struggling, especially if you have a smaller budget. With Facebook, you have some pros and some cons, all right? So the pros are going to be the cost. That's the huge pro in this conversation. Because with a productive Facebook ad, you should be seeing no more than anywhere around the $15, $16, $17 lead cost, all right? In some areas, you can see as low as $4, $5, $6, okay? Now, you're probably not going to close as higher of a percentage on Facebook as you will on Google. So understand that and put that in your equation. Let's say Facebook, you're closing 30%, and Google, you're closing 50%, okay? But your lead cost is so much lower that you're actually getting more of a return on the Facebook side, right? Because think of the math here. If 10 opportunities on Facebook cost me, let's say I'm paying $10 per, that's $100 for those 10 opportunities, right? And I closed at 30%. So that means that if I do the math on Google, with what I said, that equation, you're closing one deal on Google for $100. On Facebook, with that equation, you'd be closing 3, maybe even 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the closing part of it. Now, Facebook has some other things that are going to be branding metrics that you can't track. You're going to get some jobs on Facebook you never knew from there, but that's just on the dedicated tracking side. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the shift that's starting to happen. So if you're starting to see these numbers on Facebook, you now have more leverage. You don't have to close as many. You can have some that are shoppers or whatever the case may be. You don't have that same leverage on Google. You get a couple of shoppers, and now all of a sudden, you're like, man, I done spent $300 on the last 6 calls, and I didn't close the deal. Right?
Yeah, it's big money.
And $300 on Facebook might have been 30 opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And all you had to do was close a couple of them.
Yeah, that's
So
paid
you
for that.
balance here. So this is not to knock Google. We run Google ads as well, but we're not as bullish on Google anymore in this industry unless we're seeing the low costs, or if you just have a lot of money to spend. If you're, a 7-figure or near a 7-figure company, and you have the budget and the capability to extend it a little bit further, then the math starts to work a little bit better for you.
So,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, do you think someone should start off maybe with Facebook ads and then see where it goes? Then, if they see a volume of business, they can possibly go to a different, angle and cover a bunch of different platforms?
That's a great question. And there's not a simple answer for that. Here's what I'll say. Here's the best answer I can give you to that. Because some people are going to come in with more money than others, right? They're going to come in different markets. Here's what I say to that. I think that if you have a smaller budget, you are much better off starting with a Facebook than a Google, because your risk levels are lower and you're probably not ready to run Google ads at this point anyway. All right. But I also want to say this doesn't mean that you start day one and you have to run Facebook ads. I think being able, and me and you talked about this, right? Being able to get boots on the ground and establish yourself is very important. And I say that to a lot of people that come in. I'm like, you know what? Even for Facebook, you're not quite where you probably want to be with your budget. I suggest doing this, this, and this to get yourself in a position where you can stack up and save, or better suit yourself for it. Okay? Because marketing's never going to save a business. It's not a savior, and it's an extension of the business. So if you're hopping on Facebook because you're like, man, I have no jobs, and it's like a panic, now you're kind of throwing a Hail Mary. And maybe that can work, but I don't like to have somebody in that position. If you're in that spot, I think it's time to hit the ground hard and do what you need to do to build relationships, right? To do the things, boots on the ground, shaking hands, building relationships, maybe some yard signs, some, you know what I mean? The whole 9. The cheap
Absolutely.
angles are free.
Hmm.
Hidden Facebook groups, right? Your own social media. But yes, I do think that for most, Facebook is a great starting point because you do not have to spend nearly as much as Google, which makes your risk levels lower.
I think when you're ready to pay for some type of ads, advertising, it is a form of scaling. And I think a lot of people may be nervous about, you know, wh- why do I want to pay somebody to do this for me when I can probably do it myself? But a lot of times, I think maybe having an expert help you out and learn from it can help you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I get both sides of that. And this is one of the reasons I sell and I have the conversations I have, man. I started from nothing. I know what that feels like getting out the mud, right? So I know what that feels like, and I've built two businesses that way. So sometimes you may not be able to afford to have somebody on, and if that's the spot you're in, that's okay, right? I get that. But at some point, you want to get to a point where you shift in your business, and it's not just paying for somebody for marketing. You want to start looking at when this is bringing on employees, right? This is any form of overhead in your business. I'm just reading a book on this. I love it. It's called Who Not How, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is usually as humans, we're kind of trained to figure out how to do it, all right? But we forget about the amount of time, the amount of money it might be costing us, and all the resources we have to put into play to fix that. Sometimes it is the how that is the most productive. So finding the person who knows how to do it, paying him to do it, so now I can focus on the money making activities or other areas. All right.
Absolutely.
So and and again, if you're sitting there with $500 in the account, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's you. You're figuring out how right now. But if you got some money stacked up, or you got business credit or credit, and you have some leverages to where it's like, man, I don't know how to do this. I'm afraid it'll fail. I want to find somebody who does. Then you're going the how route. You know what I mean? Or the who instead of the how. So now you're finding, okay, who can do this that I trust that can make me that money? And the flip side is, and I go over this as well, I don't do guarantees. I'm not like, oh, if a marketing company is like, man, I guarantee you this, they're usually just trying to sell you, right? There's no guarantees in marketing. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't know how you sell. And sales is a part of marketing. So how can I guarantee anything without ever seeing your sales process? Okay.
Absolutely.
But what I can do is I can give you the numbers that I expect and then go into detail with your sales process and get you to that point where we can start really nailing everything down. And that makes a significant difference because, yeah, you might pay what you pay me or my team, but one, we come in way less than you would pay for an employee to come in and staff, number one, right? Two, we don't have to figure out what ad copy works. We don't have to figure out what video works. Those are things you would need to figure out because you don't know. And then three, I'm getting to see how seven figure companies, guys who are on their way to seven figures, and even guys in your position who are growing, I get to see how they're having these conversations. You don't. So I get to relay that information. So when we're getting paid, the way I look at it is I don't want to just run ads for somebody. I want to give them all of that value that I'm accumulating so they can take it and run with it as well. And
Absolutely.
that's where I think you get your money's worth, or you should be getting your money's worth with a marketing company. As long as they're communicating with you, you're having these conversations. You should be having conversations like not only what are my metrics, what are my costs, but you should be having conversations as how's the business going? Hey man, we noticed somebody out here started doing this and it worked really well for them. Have you tried that? Or, hey, we've got this video that's working really well. We want you to do it. We think it's going to take off. You don't have to figure all that out. That's our job to put you in that position. And I think that's
Absolutely.
what leverage is, and that's how you extend your money that you paid.
So Blake, so there's a lot of people who want to do this themselves and look into the meta messenger and all this type of stuff. But then there's also people who just boost a post. What do you think about boosting posts?
Yeah. And I want to first say when we go into that, there's nothing wrong with doing it yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. If you take the things I talked about today and you run an ad yourself and it's successful, fantastic. That's a good thing. I'm not mad at that.
Well,
I
then
want
you
that for you.
well
But
then you learned from us. You learned from us.
yeah, exactly. So when I hop on these, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want people to think like, I'm hopping on so you can just work with us. I want you to take everything we're talking about today, and if you want to use it for yourself, use it. There's some people who are going to watch this though who are like, man, I don't want to do that. Like I don't have the time to do that. I don't want to figure that out. I'm not. Then reach out. You know what I mean? That's the difference. So, but when it comes, that's a great question. When it comes to boost posts and regular ads, there's nothing wrong with boost posts except that they're a little bit more limited in time, usually. All right. And what I mean by that is Facebook sets up boost posts for quick success because usually somebody running boost posts doesn't really know how marketing works typically, right? It's an easy way to run ads. So they're going to start targeting people who have had, liked the page, interacted with the page, and they're going to hit more of a warmer audience usually right away. And this is great because if they've already interacted with your page and they liked it, there's a good chance that they might move forward because there's already trust built. The problem that I see with boost posts is that, and I get this a lot, somebody's like, man, I've been running an ad and it was doing great. Now all of a sudden it's not. And my costs are going up with that post. Or, it worked for a little bit, but then it stopped. That's because that audience that you were originally grabbing, now they're trying to grab a colder audience. And your ad just wasn't at that level. It wasn't good enough to get them, you know?
Yeah. I
Like with
think
a boost. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry. I think a boost post can be very limited
Yeah,
far as far as reaching the right audience, because I think that we all post on Facebook, but what audience are we really reaching? Then our Facebook buddies, I mean our hauling and junk removal buddies. So
yeah.
I'm trying to reach a different audience, so I need help, and I have the budget to say, hey Blake, I need your help. So instead of me just boosting, which I think boosting is very limited.
It is. It is. It's meant to be short term, and it's meant to be a short term success. It's almost an introduction to Facebook ads. All right. So it's like here's a little taste of some success. All right, now it's time for you to do the regular advertising with us. Can it work? Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with boost posts in the short term. Usually, it's the long term that they start to falter, and it's because of that. And another flip side of that could be, when you have an audience that knows you, your content and the stuff you make doesn't have to be as good because they're already warm, right? They're like, oh, I've worked with Mr. Yee Yee before,
Hmm.
You could do a simple before and after, and they might be like, oh, I got some more junk, and I worked with him before. Okay, that might work. But for somebody, if you're marketing to me, or another consumer who's never seen you before, that's probably not going to work. It's probably not going to get me to stop scrolling. Now you have to be a little bit more in depth with the way that you run your ad, the way that your graphic or your video looks. And
Hmm.
that's usually the fall off that you see between boosts and a more long term strategy. It's a different kind of ad.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that you have more control when you're running a Meta Facebook ad than the boost. You
Yeah,
know, so
100%.
so when someone wants to get into running some ads, what do you recommend to them at first?
Well, first, you gotta have the budget, right? What does the budget look like? Where's the business? Okay, because you you don't want to just come in a position where you're like, oh well, I need this to work like now, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It can, it can, but you want to have a short term and a long term goal with advertising, especially with Facebook, because Facebook is branding you. So there's other things on the back end that are working for you. And then ads, they grow engagement, right? So that helps you as well. When you start to get an ad that has been running for a long time that has 100 comments of people saying, yeah, I worked with Mr. Yee and he was great, compared to an ad that has one comment that says he was great, which one do you think is going to perform better?
Absolutely,
It's almost
absolutely.
like a Google business profile that has 5 reviews compared to one that has 300.
So
Okay.
so if a person is deciding to get into Facebook ads, how many ads should they run, do you think, at first?
Yeah, I think if it's early on for you and you don't have a lot of experience, 1 to 2 campaigns is fine. All right, so 1 to 2 ads. You can run just one, that's fine. That's going to be determined about your budget. But even if you have a good budget and you've never ran Facebook ads, I wouldn't jump in and trying to throw 5, 10 different campaigns because you're going to over test and you're not really going to know which one's which. If you want to test, if you're trying to test yourself because if you're coming in with limited knowledge, the way that you want to test is you have to break down different things. So for instance, if you have different ad copy, different audience, different targets, and you have 2 different ads set up like that, you're not going to know which one really was the difference. Was it your target? Was it your ad copy? You know what I mean? So if you start doing A/B tests, it's got to be more so along the lines of almost same exact ad copy, but maybe different video, different photo. Okay, I can see that this performed better than this did. Or, all right, everything's the same except for the targeting. Which one did better, right? So you're gonna have to really break that down and narrow it, but you might get lucky. You might run an ad. I've had some people reach out and, they have some things they need to change, but the ad's still doing okay. Maybe they're at $15 or $11 or $10 on their costs. Some markets, a little bit easier than other markets, right? So they may see that. If that's the case, I wouldn't dive into over testing at that point. You're already at a winning number. Now, your tests become how can I get jobs that are larger? So maybe I start running a campaign, and we had that situation. I spoke to a guy a week ago where his costs were good, but his average ticket was smaller. So I was like, well, that means that we need campaigns that are leaning towards larger jobs, clean outs, light demo, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The big paying jobs. So,
Yeah.
what are 3 factors that you do for your clients when you're running ads?
Yeah, some of the biggest things, I'd say the biggest advantages that we give them is one, everything's done for them. So they don't have to figure out ad copy, they don't have to test. We've spent millions of dollars on Facebook ads. So, other than testing in the now as marketing shifts, we know what's working. So our first goal is, all right, we know what's working. We're just going to find what works in this market. Okay. So the testing is a lot more limited for us because a lot of the other variables I told you about, they've already been done. We figured them out. All right, we got the sauce, so to speak, when it comes to that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think leverage there, but one of the biggest for me that I think is the leverage in being able to get them to the next step, either in their conversation flow by handling it for them and having the conversations of what it should look like with them, or all the other things that go into it as far as building the business. So being able to kind of come in as coaching and consulting in a way and say, look, here's where your business is. I've seen this before. We've got these ads going. This will get you to this level, but maybe you're missing this, or maybe you were missing that in your conversation, or whatever the case may be. To have that level of expertise to be able to give them that knowledge and help take them to the next step. And we're always available to do that because one, we do constant check-ins. Our guys, we do at least once a month calls with them, or at least try to when they're not too busy. Sometimes, I get it if you're a little busy, but we try to do that. And then also, we're also always pretty much available during the week where they text us and might ask us a question. So we're here as a resource. And I think that's a major point, not just running the ads, but also having a resource that knows the industry and kind of knows the game and can help out if there's questions that arise.
Nice, nice. So, when you do this for your clients, do you have a call center for clients?
So we don't do you mean like a call center for if they need like assistance?
Yeah, like say the client didn't pick up the phone. Do you have?
Gotcha. So no, like we'll speak to the client on our end. But as far as a call center, because remember what we're doing with Facebook is going to be mostly all phone. So the way that we'll handle it is we have the conversations that are coming in, our team's handling it, and then that's getting them to the next step, whether that's them calling them or just setting up an on-site. But no, we've been playing around with an AI call center, but we're still not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I can be a bit of a perfectionist, and we're not there yet. We're testing it with a couple of the companies we work with, either in the past or work with currently. That might be a resource that we have at some point, and the way that would work is when leads come in, when opportunities come in, it can actually call and go through that and have the conversations, or it can handle a Google call. But I think we're still a little bit, we still got some more testing and some things to do in that regard.
So do you guys have a pre-qualifying system too, software that you guys do for the clients? And how does a guy like me receive a lead?
Yeah, so that is all done. Everything comes through. We have an app that we use. It's a mobile app, and the team, you'll see the conversations in there. They use the same thing, and our clients are able to see that and then also add to the conversation as well. So what we tell our clients is basically, hey, this is going to be handled. They're going to qualify and find out where they're located, what they need removed, when they'd like to have it done. And then from there, we can either A, book it into an online calendar if they have one, or B, send it over to them now and say, hey, we have this. They're looking to have it done tomorrow or Wednesday based on your schedule. Let them know when you're available and lock that in. Or, like I said, if they have online booking, it's already booked into their calendar now. So they'll have an on-site, everything set up for Wednesday at 10 to 12 or 12 to 2, whatever the case may be. It just depends on if they have that. If they don't, then we lay it out to them because we don't have their schedule. They'll have it.
So basically, if you have a CRM, it will link right into it.
Correct. Yep. So that way, like if you have a house call Pro or your autopilot or your work keys,
Or
you already have,
autopilot or autopilot.
yeah, like it, that's also because autopilot's a big one now, right?
Yeah.
So basically, if you start and autopilot, I know they're building a lot of things in there, right? I know that's kind of ever changing, and they're getting better and better with the things that they're adding, but if you have that to where you have the capability where they can book on your website, that gives my team the same capability to grab your calendar. So they can book right in, and that's going to go into your CRM. Same with, autopilot, work keys, the whole nine.
Nice, nice. That's just, more, you know what I mean? For me, it's more, sending me leads. So I just get them and I already know that this is a hot lead and boom, you know, response time is one of the most important things in junk removal.
Yep.
So, we can't be blaming you if you're not, you know what I mean, responding in time.
Yep. And that's something a lot of people don't understand. How quick you respond and the way that you engage in your response is very important. So, and it's hard. And that's why we built the thing that we did where we have people qualify. It's like if you're driving a truck, like I don't like to text while I drive. I try not to, So if I have a 15-minute drive, then that came in. That's 15 minutes that went by before. And that's if I got to them right when I parked and got to the job site, if I'm driving or I'm going to the dump. So these are things that happen. We notice them right away. So about 3 months into me running ads in the junk removal space, that's pretty much all it took for me to 90 days. I was like, okay, I got to bring a team in, because they were sitting too long. We would see leads sit for a full day, 2 days, 8 hours, 3 hours, 50 minutes. And you're not going to be successful that way. So that's why, I think that's another good resource that we have where you can be the guy driving the truck or on the site and doing what you got to do and still having these things here. And your timeline does shift a little bit. It helps if you're already having a conversation with them and then maybe it took you like 30 minutes to hop back in and give a set time. Now, if the rapport's been built good enough, you're okay. You know what I mean? They're like, all right, we've communicated, and you can hop back in and be like, hey, sorry for that. I was actually in the middle of a job. Wednesday's great. I can do 10 to 12. Usually they're going to be like, all right, cool. That works. Instead of just ghost and disappear. But speed on the initial is very important. And the other piece is, you had mentioned this, the qualifying process is actually a lot easier than you think. Yeah. When you ask that question, when you're looking to have this done, it's going to give you a lot of information. Okay. If it's a shopper, they get like, oh, maybe in the next month, this summer, couple months, I'm just getting some quotes. They're shopping, all right?
Yeah.
If somebody is like, and this happens a lot, they're going to be like, oh, I need it done like today, tomorrow, by Friday. They're serious. This is somebody a lot more serious. So the way that you handle those conversations are different as well. If somebody's more of a shopper, now it's like, all right, they're probably trying to get a price. How do I want to go about this? Somebody's more serious. We know they need it done, and we're going to lock in. We're basically like, look, now if they have multiple items, let's set up a time that we can get there as soon as possible. to get this done and get on site and get this, because you're probably going to close it, especially if you get on site and they need it done. They have that urgency. So it tells you a lot about the conversation as well.
So, do you think it's what do you think about people putting, a call button or request a quote or just a Facebook Messenger on their ad?
So with calls, I say this a lot with Facebook, you're not going to get a ton of calls from Facebook. Not like, oh, we haven't had a conversation, they're going to call me. It's rare. Calls is Google. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
Google set up to where, because there's intent, there's urgency involved usually with Google. That's some of the things that people like. And that is a good thing about Google. With Facebook, there's a little bit more nurturing and conversation rapport building. So I like Messenger personally. You can do lead form as well. The problem I've ran into with lead form, I do think there's a lot of bots and a lot of stuff going on with lead form where you get a submission and it's more of a botted submission. I have seen that firsthand in one of my other businesses. So, and when I speak about that, guys, a lot of the things that I've used for myself. So, I walk in, talk it, and I've put these things to use. So if I see that on my end, on one of my, my other business, I'm like, oh, why would I run that for somebody else? I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work for me. So a lot of times I'll do some testing on that too and go through it. But lead form can work, but you will have some of that. If you want to more qualified, now you can build a landing page and do it more of a qualified lead form, which means that people are going to go to a page and they're going to submit their information. That can work. Just understand that your costs will now go higher. So when it comes to marketing, usually the trend is, look, if it's more qualified, here goes the costs.
So basically, less is kind of best on running the ads.
Yeah, because I would, for me personally, right, I would rather filter through some extra stuff, but have more leverage on costs. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I would, especially if I have a team doing it. Now it's a no-brainer. Like for you guys, if you're working with me and my team, you might as well just have us do our job and take the least amount of costs and qualify. But you can run it that way, and there's no issue. Just understand the difference. You may pay $25, $30 a lead there, and yeah, it's more qualified, but you have less to filter through here. But just because it's more qualified doesn't mean it's going to close, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How quickly did you call them? And it makes sense because think about it. I always try and put the frame in the customer's perspective. If I'm the customer, what's the least invasive thing for me? It's Messenger.
Messenger, yeah, straight up.
I'll just send a quick message and they message me back. Mm-hmm. And Facebook likes it because they stay on platform.
Yeah, I think
Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you'll have some messages that are going to come through. I promise you. It's like, man, I accidentally clicked, or yeah, that'll happen, guys. But the thing is, you're paying so little. If you have a good campaign set up, it doesn't matter, and you're also not paying for that message.
Yeah,
we'll dive into that a little deeper too. That's a misconception. People think they're paying when somebody messages. Facebook's not Google. They're not paying. They're not charging you per message. They can tell you how much you're paying per message based on how much you're spending, but you didn't pay because that person clicked the message.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe if that person clicked by accident, you'll still get their data, who it is.
Yeah, you can. I mean, that can happen if you're good enough, and some people are, I see this, where it's like, I accidentally click. Hey, no worries at all. Completely understand. If you did ever need anything, just let us know. Somebody could clearly come back and be like, you know what, actually, I might have a need for this. Mm-hmm. Some people will, some people won't. But the other thing to keep in mind too is that's still a level of engagement on the ad. So it's like you did still get a click there and an engagement, which Facebook is tracking the engagement to then monitor what they're going to put your costs on. Because your costs, you're being charged for how many people see the ad. So there's a breakdown that's called a cost per 1,000 impressions.
Yeah.
That lowers the more engagement you have on the ad. Because they're like, oh, people like this. They're commenting on it. They're clicking on it. They're sharing. Let's show more of this for less because this is better for our platform. It's working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes. I think all that goes into hand with what you put on your headlines and your captions. And I think a lot of people can you relate to that?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you have things that, and you know, some of them, it's not going to be about that, like with some of the clicks, right? But with the engagement, like the accidental clicks are accidental. All right. But when it comes to people like actually engaging 100%, because on their perspective, they're on Facebook, they're scrolling through, right? They're going through it. And you only have so many layers to get somebody to like grab that attention and be like, hey, this is for you. Okay. So some of those are one, your headline, as you mentioned. Two, it's going to be the top of your ad copy. It's usually going to show the first two sentences as long as you don't have like a paragraph in the first sentence. So it's very important you have something that can grab them. And then three is going to be your either your video or your photo. And I like video, right? Because video is where people consume. So I want to have something that they're already kind of consuming and they can be like, oh, okay. And now they're engaged and they want to go to the next step, which is go through the ad. What does it say? What is it about? Is it for me? All right. So yes, I mean, that is in a nutshell, that's how you're going to get your engagement, right?
Yeah.
Is having something that speaks to them. And a good way to do that is either location or what you're offering. So what I mean by that is at the top, I love to either call out the local audience. So it's like, hey, you know, whatever town I'm in, residents or surrounding area, right? Or go right into what you're doing. Do you need junk removed? And sometimes you can combine that too. I'll mix and match that. So it'll be like, you know, I'm in Baltimore. So it's like, hey, Baltimore residents, do you need junk removed? And they're seeing those two things in the ad. That's it, right? So imagine if I'm here in the Baltimore area and I need junk removed, that's pretty much speaking right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna go and take a look at that ad. Or hey, Baltimore residents, right? Or do you need junk removed and I need it? So those are things that I'm kind of going into, hey, here's the people I'm looking for, and I'm shouting them out right from the jump because that's what they're seeing. And you're doing the same thing with your video and the way that you construct that. Your headlines you can mix and match. You know, like a lot of times you can go, you know, you get your free estimate, you can have an offer. It's a lot of different things. You can have a headline with a description in there as well. There's a few different things that you can do there, but usually I like to either go into my offer or just go into something a little bit more simple where it's like, hey, get your free estimate today,
Yeah,
right?
even maybe being a little funny, like, are you tired of being a
Yeah,
prisoner of that clutter? And
yeah.
just that kind of gets to the point.
That's more in
I,
depth, right? That's
yeah,
more in depth. So it's like
yeah,
if somebody isn't like you know social media, so it's easier for you like to understand that concept of it.
yeah,
That
yeah,
works wonderfully, but not everybody has that gear. So it's like be funny if you're funny. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you don't know social media a whole lot, then you might need to work to get there. And I'm giving you the basics, like kind of the pulse. But yes, humor is oh man, if you can make people laugh, you have a winner. You know, and we talked about that a little bit, you know, on the other show where it was like, I think he says like, you know, do you want to get rid of your ex? People laugh, right? And then they're
Hmm.
like, oh, okay. So humor builds like trust.
Hmm.
And you're trying to create, and this is good for your regular social media, your regular Facebooks, your regular Instagram, right? People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And humor really reels people in. So that's a great point. But I didn't want to go too far because
Yeah, yeah. You
not
gotta
everybody
what?
has
Well, that's why you would reach out to Top Dog Digital
that.
Solutions, and they can help you with all that, and they can help you, what I mean, funnel your clients right to you because
Yeah.
that's what my guy does. How could they find you on social media platforms?
Yeah. So you can find us on our websites. We just did a redesign actually. We fully rebranded. So topdogdigitalsolutions.com. That's DOG. So topdog, TOP, DOG, digitalsolutions.com. I'm all over Facebook. Like I said, I walk at a talk it. So I'm active on my Facebook. You can find me at my name, Blake, and then the last name is Short, SHORT. It'll be a picture with me and my dog. That is the brand. It was built off him. The logo is literally
Yeah,
off of
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Um,
I think you're on YouTube, right? You're on
on
YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, we have two different channels on YouTube. I'll make sure that I send you a lot of the links you drop in the description to make it a little bit easier for everybody. But
Hmm.
those are probably the best. Our website, my Facebook, or YouTube. Any of those work.
I think we all the more you get into this business, the more you become you be creative, and that's the key word, be. You're being creative, so you're going to learn this in time. Some people have it off top, like moi, but
Mhm.
some people don't, and that's why I recommend, if you have the budget, you reach out to a Blake, and at Top Dog, and he can answer so many questions for you, and you'd be surprised the knowledge he gives you, and the expertise, and he can help you, and you'd be surprised, growing your business, broadening your horizon, your audience. And I think when you run a campaign like this, you also are running it over to Instagram, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I like to run on both. Instagram's a really great platform. It's a great visual platform, and it's good for the junk removal space. So yeah, as long as you have that connected properly, right? You have a business and a business page for Instagram. Yeah, we want to run it on both. We want to take advantage of both platforms. You know, um, I mean, to your point, there's going to be layers that might be more complicated for some rather than others, right? Everybody watching is just going to have a different level of tech savviness. But you said like being you. I think one of the things we miss the most in business, and I see this a lot with the business we work with, the businesses that I've consulted with, we get in this, we almost lose our character. We're so focused on the professional aspect, right? And just doing it to like following this straight line. And the businesses that are the most successful are the ones going outside the box. They're the ones having the humor and the fun, right? They're doing offers that are outside the box. They're doing things to bring business in outside the box. So whether you run Facebook ads or not, or anything, try and think outside the box for your business for a little bit. What is something that you can do that nobody else does, or maybe one person has done successfully that you
Yeah,
can do, and do it in your own way, right? Don't copy and paste their stuff. But man, that's a cool idea. I wonder if I could do it, but do it like this.
yeah,
That's going to help you a lot. And I think that's going to take your business to another level. It's not going to be overnight. You're not going to come up with an idea and all of a sudden you're going to, but if you're able to be consistent, because most people can't be consistent, and think outside the box. Those are two things that most of the guys that are seven figures are right there and above. Almost all of them do that. Almost every single one.
and I think that they, and almost everyone you're just talking about right now, has needed help with a marketing advertising situation, because they can't come up with it themselves, so they have the budget to reach out to a Top Dog Digital Solutions and
Yep.
help them with that situation. And being creative was, I wasn't always Mr. Yee Yee. I was just Rudy, I'm like the movie Rudy, and I just decided, I'm going to create this character, and I just ran with it. And everywhere I go, it's in back of my shirts, Mr. Yee Yee, and everywhere I go, people scream it out, Yee Yee. And I put my face on my shirts. I put my face in my whole rebranding, and it was just being creative, and it was just funny.
Yeah. And you know what the best part about this? You're having a good time while you're doing business. You're you. I mean, you look up top on this podcast, right? Like, what do we have? I got my Ravens hat on. You got your Giants hat on, right? Like, that's who I am. If you see me outside the house, you're gonna see me probably with one of these hats, or my Orioles hat or my Ravens hat,
Yeah.
and probably you too, right? That's who you are. So, like, be funny, but be who you are. And the other thing is, that wasn't a natural day one thing for you, was it? To just
No.
hop on camera and be funny. So you're watching this and you might be like, oh yeah, but that's easy for you to say, Blake, and Mr. Yee Yee, because you guys, you do this and you're comfortable on camera. Man, I couldn't have been the furthest from comfortable on camera, but when I started doing YouTube. So you can do it. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but I highly suggest getting on camera, getting comfortable with these things, because people want to see who you are and they want to see your business. And that's going to be really important. It's going to give you a leg up. And the cool thing about it is I could tell everybody this in the junk space until I'm blue in the face. And every time I get on one of these, I say this, like 1 out of every 10 people are going to do it because it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable and people don't like to do uncomfortable things. So that means you have more leverage now and more of an advantage than most of your competitors if you do it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you just have to do what works for your business and
Yeah.
what can bring in, because some of my first I've got over 700 YouTube videos, and some of my first videos was my wife just recording me, and I wasn't so comfortable holding the camera myself or knowing what I should do or the right words I should say, or just topics and all this type of shit. But
Yeah.
I had to learn it. And once I put that bucket hat on, once Mr. Yee Yee put his bucket hat on, that gray bucket hat and my green glasses and my shirt, that's Mr. Yee Yee.
Yeah.
Right now you're seeing Rudy. This is Rudy
Yeah.
right here. But when I put that hat on and those glasses on, I
Switches.
that's what people are paying for. That's
Yeah.
what people love to see at their house, because they see my advertising and they see, oh, I can't believe you're here. I see you all over social media, but now you're here. Oh my God, can we take a picture? Yeah. Make sure you tag your family, your friends, your coworkers, everybody. Let them know who I am. You
Yeah.
know. But back to topic over here. Back to topic. We all want to ask the question. When do you think you're going to see a ROI on your Facebook ads?
That's one thing I do like about Facebook. So, when you compare it to a Google and you have the data gathering phase and all that, Google can be hard to get a quick return. You go through data gathering about 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer. With Facebook, it can be, you're going to get messages. If you set a messenger campaign, you're going to get messages that day or the next day. All right. So you're going to have opportunities come in. Now, the algorithm is going to get better and smarter as it goes over time, but your waiting game is not long. You could have a good return in the first month. That doesn't mean that's guaranteed. It might take till the second month, third month, but usually you're at least in a position. And I always say this: no one has ever asked me if they would make their money back. They've always had. Nobody's ever afraid of breaking even. They're scared of losing money, right? That's
Yeah.
the fear. We're like break even. It's not the most ideal result, but nobody's like, oh, I'm so scared. Like, what if I just make my money back? They're like, what if I lose my money? Facebook puts you in a pretty good position where even in the short term, you're at least making your money or getting a return, which is what I like. Now, again, what are your sales like? What is your process, right? There's going to be some things, okay? But if you're running at a good enough budget, we're not talking like, hey, spend $100 and all of a sudden you're going to see stuff. I like to be at a $20 a day in a month. All right, and that's $600 in a month. I think that's more than reasonable. That might be one job. That might be a handful of jobs. Okay, that's where I like to be. Now, at that point, you can scale it. You can go 30, 40. I mean, we got guys spending $200 a day on this platform, but at least there, you're not at a high risk level. You should be able to afford it, but you're also in a position where you're getting enough opportunities to close and build off of. So that's kind of a sweet spot for beginners. You can do a $10 a day at 300, but again, let's do the math. It's like and this is something a lot of people don't really put together. What's a 3x turn? What's a 3x return on $300?
900.
900. All right, so you profited 6. What's a 3x return of $600?
1800.
You know what I'm saying here, guys? You see the math? So the more the risk levels at the same return, the more that you got. Now, there's a balance there. It doesn't mean let's go spend $20,000 on Facebook and assume we're going to get 60,000. Clearly, there's a bar there, but that gives you an idea. If you have the comfort levels to spend 600 or 900 in that month, you do it, as long as it's not too risky for you, because if you stick at that 3x return, you get more back, or that 5x return, or whatever it is, right? So you're really playing a math game here and understanding what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to build. One of the cool things too is you mentioned time. Your long term is your LTV and your brand. So not only are you working your short term and you're like, man, maybe I can get a 5x return this month or a 4x or a 10x or whatever it is, which isn't that far fetched. You could do, if you spent 600 a month and you got a clean out at 5K, that job right there almost 10x you.
Bam.
Right? That one job. So the numbers are realistic. These can happen, right? We still don't do guarantees, but it gives you an idea of how that can be accomplished, right?
Yeah.
Um, but what you really want to look at, and I kind of lost track when I went off that, to be honest. But what you're sort of looking at is you're just kind of building an ecosystem for yourself that sets you up for the long term as well. And your long term with Facebook is LTV, so that's lifetime value. So that means if you had somebody come in, let's say you had a 5x return the first month and the second month, okay? That's based on them doing that one job with you, that person. But if those people do a second job with you, now all of a sudden your return was much larger and just coming in later, right? Because you're not paying to reacquire them. If you did a job and they called you back, you didn't pay. There was no purchase to reacquire. And now you got another $400 job or whatever it was. Okay. So this is the stack. And this is how a lot of businesses, you start building a base of customer, and then coming back. And that's how you start to really, now you're getting new people in and the old people, and the new people and old people, and you're starting to stack. All right. And that comes with time. But that's an important component. And then the branding is the unknown metric, right? We can't really track it. We could try, we could be like, where'd you come from? But they might say Google, and maybe they saw your Facebook ad 10 times over the last 6 months and then went to Google and was like, oh, No Limit. I've been seeing that ad, the guy with the ad, the funny ad. And then 3 other people in the map pack, and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to call No Limit. I've been seeing it, right? That is branding. That's a metric that you're probably not going to be able to track that well because, again, they'd be like, oh, yeah, I came from Google. They might be like, oh, I saw your Facebook ad, which you guys will be surprised that'll happen a lot too. One of my local clients here, he's like, man, I feel like a celebrity sometimes. We've had an ad. He's one of the ones I mentioned with like 150 comments. Some of them are asking for work, like, man, can you remove hot tubs? Do you do this? Some of them are like, he was great. His team was great. But he's like, man, so many people are like, man, I see you all over the place. Just like you said earlier. And that's because that ad, it's doing its job. It's
Branding. And we, as much as we post, we're all over the neighborhoods, we're all over the community, and people know our vehicles. And people see us in the retail stores. We're normal human beings also, but we just happen to wear our uniforms a lot. And a lot of people see us, and it feels good when someone says, hey, I seen you all over social media, from Facebook to next door to Instagram. I seen you. Oh my God, matter of fact, you did my auntie's house. And it's just, I think that if you have the budget and you're ready for this, I think if you're ready for this, you should look at all angles to scale your business. And we can always use more work. There's no one out there who says, no, I just have too much work, I'm too busy. You can always use more work. And if you have the budget, you should be looking at, an investment like this that can help you. Yes, you're paying for the service, but let it be training wheels. Let it be training wheels as you learn the system. And you're testing the system. The only way to grow is to test it. Then you could become a pro at this.
Yeah, and I get it. I get the, if let's say you have the budget and you're just like, oh, but I've been burnt before. And I won't go into too much detail, but lately in the junk space, there's been a lot going on. All right. And I saw some of that coming from a mile away, I must say, but that's not my business. Find somebody you guys trust, man. Like if you hopped on a call with me and you felt uneasy, don't move forward. I'm just being honest, you shouldn't feel that way, and I don't think you would. But anyone, if you feel uneasy or you don't feel like you trust that company's going to have your best interests in mind, don't work with them. The way that we built our company is simple. We said, look, we came from nothing. We know what that's like. We know how hard business is. We're going to give value. We're going to give facts. We're going to give information. And if you're like, I want to have that resource at my disposal, then we're here to help you grow. We're going to do everything in our power to do it, me and my team. And I have a great team. We're not going to BS you. We're not going to fluff stats. We're going to say, hey, here's what we think is going to happen based on this. This is how the math adds up, and this is where we want to be, and this is how we scale in the short and the long term. And then it's going to come down to how comfortable are you with us, and what is your budget, right? Simple as that. And it's something where I think for the people who have worked with us the longest, they understand one, and we've got guys who work with us for 5 years. All right. So pretty much almost from the beginning that we started picking up, right? So it becomes, do they have my best interest in mind? Do they care? That's important, right? Does your marketing company care? Are they doing the work they said that they were going to do? Are they monitoring everything? And then 3, are you growing, right? Are you seeing that growth? And if you're not, are you having that conversations with your marketing team to find out what's stunning that growth and how we can overcome it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if someone were to start wanting to pay for leads and ads, I'm pretty sure Facebook is probably the one of the safest way to start,
Yeah.
because far as a Google and leaving, open range on Google. So and you can miss words, miss keywords, and it can cost you a lot of money. And running Google ads is not cheap. It's not something that Mr. Yee Yee is doing, but I want to try this system out. That's why I have Blake on the show. And Blake is me and Blake are going to work together. And you know what I mean? I'm going to put my trust into Blake, and I endorse it. And I highly believe in this. That's why Blake's going to be at the Junk Expo this year.
Yeah.
He's going to be a superstar this year.
Yeah.
So you got any plans for the Junk Expo? What you maybe a little insight of what you're going to talk about? We are,
Oh, we're gonna go A to Z on Facebook. I mean, I got about a 30-minute window, and that's plenty of time for me to dive into most of it. So I'm gonna talk about campaign structure. I'm gonna talk about how to qualify jobs that are coming in, how to set up your campaigns, what to look for, why I love video, how we do video. So I'm gonna dive in as much of that as I can in a 30-minute window, right?
ooh,
To give somebody kind of the juice, so to speak, as best as I can. I can talk about Facebook for like 3 hours. So 30 minutes is a good bit of time, but I'm going to give as much as I can in as many areas as I can. So I'm really excited about that. And we'll have a booth set up where, my partner Chase, who he's had his own marketing agency in the past, very educated. He'll be there, as well as our customer service guy, Roy, who a lot of people will get to meet and know. And he just came on board a couple months ago, so he'll be able to meet some people, because
yeah.
I
I,
meet some
I've
clients.
I've met Chase, very communicative. Communication is good. Emailing back, talking back and answering questions just like that. So I like that right there. That
Yeah.
I mean, shows me that you guys do care and that you guys are there for your clients. And if you guys want to learn more, reach out to Top Dog. You know what I mean? Digital Situation. He's going to be at the Junk Expo. He's going to have a 30-minute window, but he's going to be there for 2 days, right?
Yep. So we'll be there Friday hanging out, and then we speak on Saturday.
And then you guys are after his speech, he's going to be able to talk with you guys privately. So he's going to need about 12 gallons of water from talking so much. And you know what I mean? He's coming to Northern California. He's probably going to wear his Baltimore hat, but you know what I mean? He's coming to Northern California. It's a little bit warm out here.
Yeah. Well, I'm prepared because it just came from Vegas for a wedding, so I
Yeah,
got.
yeah.
But yeah, I told Chase a joke with him. I said, as much as we love fitness, I was like, we got a lot of like Top Dog gear. I'm not wearing it right now. You saw me in my Top Dog hoodie, but I'm like, we got to get us a Top Dog fitted so I can mix it up a little bit. I'll go to Baltimore and maybe the Top Dog fitted. So he knows it's got to be cool though. I'm a big fitted guy. It's got to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, get some shirts made, some stickers made, and pass them out. You know what I mean? that's a great way to branding because
Yep.
we all come to the Junk Expo. We all give out stickers. We all give out so many things, and people put it on their situations, and they're always like, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And I highly suggest you guys reach out to Blake, and he can answer all of your questions. And you know, I'm gonna be working with Blake, so I'm gonna be giving you guys updates on me and Blake's situation, and hopefully that turns up the heat on him a little bit. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um,
No, let's do it, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for us to work
yeah.
together. It's,
Well,
you get to see how we operate instead of just hearing how we operate. There's a difference.
absolutely. We're gonna have updates, and we're gonna show you guys. And I want to be the guinea pig, and I want to, what I'm trying to do is, expand my audience. And
Yeah.
the only way to do this is to try. Therefore, you don't have to just listen to everybody say, this is a bad, no, he's bad. Da, da, da." How would you know if you even tried?
Yeah. And Facebook, a lot of times, we talked about earlier how Facebook gets a bad rap, and it's usually for people who are either not in your market, or maybe they didn't spend enough on Facebook, or they were missing things in their ad, and it's hard for us to know who's who when they come in, where, if you're in a group and they're like, oh, I ran Facebook and it didn't work. It's like, but there's no context behind that, where it's like, well, how much did you spend, right? Where are you located? What did your ad look like? Like, these are all very important components to a successful Facebook ad. Now, can you have an area where Facebook might not work as well? Absolutely, right? I mean, just like anything else. But most areas, like the majority of areas, Facebook works because its costs are low and it puts you in that position to succeed. But, we kind of hear these things and we sort of go off of them, and we're like, and that's not just Facebook, but across the board, we make these decisions, but we haven't done it ourselves. Either you yourself or had a company do it. And there's a big difference in that. So I think, to what you said, test, and in any capacity, SEO, Facebook, boots on the ground, right? Yard signs, test, because that's the only way you're going to get the true information, by testing, not from somebody who told you it didn't work across the US.
Yeah, absolutely. And people don't realize that Meta is huge. I think the number one that brings in revenues is Meta. It's not YouTube, it's Meta. And
Yeah.
far as advertising, and you know what I mean, Meta. So this is just people get on this, and it's just another form. That's all. If you think you're ready to scale up and you think you're ready to try something new, give my guy Blake a try. And with that said, I think that was a good me and you having a nice show. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I had a lot of fun. Like I said, I love talking about this stuff, man. So I'm sure, we could chop it up a little deeper in big specifics, but
Yeah, yeah.
gave some people a little bit of game on what it looks like and what to expect.
That's exactly why I wanted to bring you to the show, and I wanted to give you your flowers, and I want people to, there's other forms, but you got to give it a try, but you got to be ready. So, he can only do 50% of it. You got to do the other 50%. So you
Yeah,
can't just get mad at him if you're not closing those deals, or you don't have that mouthpiece to close those deals. Half it, I would say, so much of a percentage of this business is sales.
100%. Yeah,
You
and we'll take our heat when it's warranted. If we have a campaign that's not, we do more than just Facebook ads. So it's like, I will
Yeah.
not be in a position where, if something's not working, that we're just going to keep doing. And I say we'll pivot, right? And that's very, 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 very rare. But if we're like, man, hey, the conversations look good, it's a partnership. Like, any marketing company with you is a partnership. They shouldn't be hired to just save your business. Again, it's an extension of your business. But I think what you should have with your partnership is, you should have somebody who is at least having a conversation or looking at those things for you, because it shouldn't be oh, well, you messed up or I messed up. It should be, how can we get better together and grow? So they should be able to see those conversations and say, hey, I noticed this, and if you switch this little thing here, I think that'll help you a lot, you know? Or they can say, you know what, we were running this campaign here, and maybe the costs were good, but the jobs we were getting were smaller, so I think we're going to pivot to here, right? You should be able to have those conversations and be able to be vocal enough on both sides because the goal is common. With a good marketing company, and there's a lot out there, guys. We are not the only one. We're probably the main one for Facebook and junk. But guys, there's a lot of good marketing companies in the space and a lot of good marketers, right? There's, when it comes to SEO and Facebook and Google. So just make sure that this is somebody in one of those companies that really cares and wants to see you succeed and has built a team around doing so to get you to that level. Simple as that.
And you wanna link up with a guy like Blake because if your phone's not ringing, there's solutions that he's gonna help you to get that phone to ring. And just a conversation with this guy. This guy is a real deal, honest guy, and I like his the way he approaches the situation, very professional. And you guys heard it here from Mr. Yee Yee. You know what I mean? And with that said, if you guys want to reach out to me, you guys can reach out to me on all the social media platforms, No Limit Hauling and Junk Removal, Facebook, TikTok. There's No Limit Hauling, and then on Instagram, No Limit Hauling and Junk Removal. And Mr. Yee Yee is here for you guys. This is why we bring people like Blake on our shows to give you guys that real deal, and to help you before you make a decision. Go get go talk to a professional who does this, that can help you. Anything else you got to say about that, Blake?
Nah, man, I just appreciate you having me on here. I hope this was really helpful for some people watching. I'm always open to a call. I'm not a hard sell, guys. I'm really not. I think Mr. Yee will back that up. I give you whatever value I can, and if we're a fit, we'll move forward. But I'm here to help no matter what.
And if you guys want to reach out to Blake, I'm gonna have his link in the bio below, in the comment section. So use that link, reach out to him, and tell him the Yee Yee sent you. And you know what I mean? He'll give it to you the way he's giving it to me. But with that said, that's a wrap, my brother. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for coming on the show, giving me your time, that Baltimore time. You know what I mean? And with that said, we are out of this. Beep.